Hello and welcome to another skills video for Excel 2019-365. This is the answer key to the Unit 2 hands-on exercise. As you can see, I've already downloaded both the workbook file for the Unit 2 hands-on exercise and the instructions file, and I've resized them to mimic the testing environment, with the workbook on the top taking up about 2/3 of the screen and the instructions below taking up about 1/3 of the screen. If you still need to download the files, open them, and arrange them, pause the video now to take care of that. If you're ready to proceed, let's go ahead. So Unit 2 hands-on exercise covering the unit about managing data, cells, and ranges. First, you'll open the Excel file named Unit 2 Workbook, your initials, as so. And we recommend resizing both the open files, as I have done, just to get you comfortable with the testing environment. If you have a two-screen setup or you prefer a different way to go about this, totally up to you. The first skill we're going to tackle is merging and centering. So the first thing we'll do is activate the worksheet Budget Master. So I will activate the Budget Master worksheet with a click, select cell range A2 through E2 with a click and a drag, and then merge and center. On the Home tab, in the Alignment group, we have the Merge and Center button. Don't forget that you have your drop down here if you want to do something besides merge and center. This is your traditional merge. Merge and center happens to be the top one. It is also the default if I just click the big part of the button. I'll go ahead and merge and center all in one fell swoop there. We will select cell A5 and we will unmerge. So once again, we will access the drop down here, and the very last option is unmerge cells. Now we have 5 separate cells rather than one big cell. Done. I'll go ahead and save my work while I'm thinking about it, and we will scroll down to the next skill. This next skill is number formatting 3 ways. We will select column B, the predicted expenses, and we will apply the number format accounting using a command button on the Home tab in the number group. So Home tab, number group, we want to apply the accounting format using a command button. This $ right here is the accounting number format command button. I'll go ahead and click to apply the number accounting format. Using another command button in that group, reduce the decimal places shown to 0. There are a couple of ways to do this, but we are going to use these buttons right here to increase or decrease the decimal place because the instructions asked us to use another command button. So I'm going to use the command button here to decrease the decimal place. I'll click it 2 times, 1, 2, and you can see that the numbers responded by reducing their decimal place showing by 1 for every click. Step number 2, select column C, the actual expenses, and we're going to apply the number format accounting using a different command button on the Home tab this time, and we will also reduce the number of decimal places to 0, although you can see we are not asked to use a command button for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the numbers group again on the Home tab. I'm going to grab the drop down here and I'm going to select accounting. Now I have the accounting, and I can again use the decrease decimal place here to get those zeros out of my way. And that takes me to step number 3, select column D, the difference amount, and again apply the number format accounting using the settings launcher from the Home tab. And again, I'm going to reduce the decimal places shown to 0, but this time the instructions specify that there is a tool within a dialog box, that same dialog box where I applied the number format accounting, that I should use. So I select column D. You got to select it if you want to affect it. We'll go to the Home tab, to the number group. I will click the settings launcher here to open this dialog box. Under number, I will choose accounting, and here is the decimal places feature that I can reduce to 0 and click OK. So now I have the accounting number format applied with no decimal places showing. I have done this to each of these columns in 3 different ways. The test rewards people who know how to do the same thing multiple ways. Sometimes the test will ask you to use a specific method to achieve an outcome, and you will be graded on whether you used that particular method. So it is important to know lots of different ways to get to the same thing. Go ahead and Save my work, and we'll move on to our next skill, which is formatting ranges and cells. Now we will select cells B4 through E4. So here's B4 through E4, selected with a click and a drag. We want to change the cell orientation to rotate text up. So here under the alignment group, still working on the home tab in the alignment group, here's the rotate text button. We want to rotate text up. So now, as you can see, the text goes up and down rather than side to side. There we go. I'll adjust so you can see the whole thing. Now adjust the alignment so that the contents of these cells are centered left to right, but the text aligns to the bottom of the cell. So right now you can see that we are at the bottom of the cell and we are centered here. So we want these to be centered left to right, which they are, but we also want them aligned to the bottom of the cell. So let's see what happens here. That's the top, there's the middle, there's the bottom. So we want this one left to right, and we want this one to make the text hug the bottom. It's a little bit difficult to see. So there's center, there's hugging the top of the cell, there's centered, there's hugging the bottom of the cell. So the instructions say we want the text aligned to the bottom of the cell and the content centered left to right. So under the alignment tab, we've got our vertical centered toward the bottom, aligned toward the bottom, and we've got our horizontal aligned in the middle. Okay. While B4 through E4 is still selected, activate the Wrap Text command button, and it will look like nothing happened. Alignment group here, Wrap Text button is here. I'll go ahead and select that, and again, it looked like nothing happened. But we are going to select row 4 now, the entire row. So we're on step 4 here. Select row 4 by clicking on the row heading, and we're going to set the row height to 70. So how do we set the height for a row? Select the row or the column that you want to work with. We'll be on the Home tab. We'll go to the Cells group, and we'll come to Format here. And under Row Height, we can click and we can tell it that we want to set that row height to 70, and we say OK. That makes the row shorter than it was, and because I selected Wrap Text, rather than spilling out of the cell on the top, it wraps the text around to another line and fits it all inside the row as tall as it is. So the text now breaks between the words to make better use of our space. Awesome. Let's move down to step number 5. Select the entire worksheet using the Select All button. That lives right here. It's where the column headers meet the row headers. Select the entire thing with a click, and then auto-fit the columns to the contents. So once again, we're going to be working on the Home tab in the Cells group under the Format dropdown, and we are going to use the Auto-Fit Column Width button. And what this does is it automatically takes the widest piece of information in any of the columns, and it makes the column exactly wide enough to fit that. So it just makes our use of space really efficient here. So that's step number 5. Select the range B6 through E91 and increase the cell indentation so there's more white space between the left border of each cell and the contents. Okay, here's a fun little trick for you. You can click cell B6 through E91 by clicking and dragging. Or you can click in cell E6 and then scroll down to E91, hold down your Shift key and click to make the selection. Or up here in the name box, you can type B6 colon E91 and hit enter, and it selects that entire chunk for you. So if you are confident in your typing, by all means, use that little shortcut. If not, the click and the drag or the click shift click trick works just fine. So I selected my range B6 through E91. I'm going to increase the indent on the left side. You can do this a number of ways, but the quickest way is just using this increase indent button right here. Brings everything in from that left border of the cell just a smidge. So there's that. And number 7, select the cell A4 and apply the cell style title. So still working on the Home tab In the styles group, we have a drop down here called cell styles. If you expand it, or sometimes depending on your screen resolution, you may have this expanded as a gallery already, and you can pick from something that looks like this. We want title, right? Yeah, cell style title. Click on that. This now is formatted like a title, and we are good to go. So let's save our work, and we'll scroll down to our next area, our next skill area, which is manipulating data in worksheets. So step one, we're going to activate the worksheet week 1 budget. So come back up here. I will click on week 1 budget. So now I'm on a different worksheet. I'm going to delete columns D, the difference amount, and columns E for over and under budget. So I'm going to select columns D and E, and I'm going to delete. So notice I was up here. I worked in the column headers. So when I choose delete here, it doesn't ask me any questions. It just says I'm going to delete the entire columns because you indicated you wanted the entire columns gone by clicking on the column headers. Now, if I had just clicked on 2 cells inside D and E and right-clicked and went for delete, notice I have these little ellipses. That means I'm going to get questions. Delete what? If I click it, it's going to ask me, am I going to delete an entire row, an entire column, and what do I do with the space left in between? I can also come up here to the delete group, and I get the same questions here. I'm going to delete those sheet columns that D and E are sitting in. So D and E are now gone. Yay me. 3 different ways to get there. I'm going to insert 1 new column between column B and column C. So I'm going to come over here to column C, and I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to insert a sheet column. So when I click Insert, notice the default is to insert a sheet column to the left of what I had selected. Just good to know, insert by default is to the left of the selection or above the selection if you're talking about rows. So I inserted 1 new column in between B, predicted expenses, and what was column C, actual expenses. That information has been pushed over to column D now that I have a blank here in column C. In cell C4, this one right here, enter the text within quotation marks, which is week 1. Now on the test, if you were to just just left click on the week 1, it would automatically copy it to your clipboard and you could paste it from there. In my case, I don't have those funny little test shortcuts, so I'm just going to copy it with a Control C, come back up here and paste with a Control V. And there is week 1. I wonder, however, I'm just going to undo that real quick. If I just started typing here, yeah, it went ahead and kept the formatting. So I went ahead and typed it in there. So in C4, week 1, sounds good. In cell C6 here, we're on step 5 now. Enter the text within the quotation marks. In this cell, equal B6/3 and hit enter. Fair enough. So I'll double click here to get into edit mode and I will type equal B6 //3 and hit enter. Notice, don't worry if you get a bunch of hashtags, we will sort that out in a minute. So this is exactly what I would expect. Number 6, we're going to use the autofill tool to copy this formula all the way down to the bottom of the data set. So the data set goes all the way down here to, wow, it goes down a ways, to 91. So let's go ahead and use the autofill handle. I'm going to click in cell C6. I'm going to snuggle up to that autofill handle and I'm going to click and drag all the way down my page to the bottom of the data set. I want to go all the way down there to 91. Okay, so I did that. Now I'm going to select the range B6 through B91. So notice I'm in column C right now. I want to go from B6 through B91. I can click and drag, or I can do my little trick. B6 colon B91, enter. So there's that whole selection. So I selected B6 through B91. If you want to verify that you got all the way down to B91, go all the way down the sheet here. And sure enough, there it is. Use the autofill tool to copy the selected ranges, formatting only one column to the right. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to snuggle up to the autofill handle. I'm going to ignore this box here. This is the quick analysis box. We do not want that. I just want to grab the autofill handle here, click and hold, drag one column to the right, and that's going to copy this data over to the right. But now this is not the quick analysis box anymore. It is the autofill options box. I can click on this box and I can tell it I want to fill formatting only. That will leave the data alone, but it will make sure that all of these cells are using the accounting format, that they're indented just a little bit like the other cell, that the green carries over, that there are no decimal places, and this takes care of our hashtag problem. So that's great. Let's move on to step number 9 and see what else we need to do here. I'm going to save my work while I'm thinking about it. Number 9, select the cells in C6 through C91. So again, I'm going to go from C6, and this time I'm just going to click and drag on down to C91 because this is a perfectly legit way to do it. Okay, so there's selecting cells C6 through C91 and copy using either the Home tab clipboard group or the context menu with a right click. So I could come over here and copy, or I can just right click and choose copy. Either way, I get the little dancing green lasso to indicate that this is on my clipboard now. So I copied. Now step 10, activate the worksheet week 2 budget. So I'm going to come on over here to week 2 budget, select cell C6 on this new worksheet, this one right here, and paste. I'm just going to go ahead and use the fat part of the paste button, nothing special, paste. The entire column should populate all the way down to cell C91, which it does. Yay us. Select any populated cell in column C and observe the formula bar. So there it is. Notice that the formula you created in the worksheet week 1 has been pasted here and updated to refer to the current worksheet. So this cell is just looking at B89 and dividing it by 3. So if this is the predicted expenses and we are dividing it by 3 to get a weekly estimate, this formula no longer is looking back at week 1, it is looking at week 2. It is looking at this worksheet now. Okay, so now we're going to activate. Let's see if I can find where I was now. We just activated the week 2. We pasted. That's great. Selected any. Okay, so that was step 13. Now we're going to go to step 13. Activate the worksheet week 3. And once again, select cell C6. Now either right-click to display the context menu or select the bottom half of the Paste command button, and we'll see some Paste special options. So here's our Paste special options. We want to select values, this one right here. Paste values, values only. Now we're going to select any populated cell in column C and observe the formula bar. So if you look at any of these cells and you look up in the formula bar, you'll see we are no longer calculating this answer. We have just pasted those values from the previous worksheet here. No formula, just the answers to the math problem. That's what happens when you use Paste Special and choose values only. Okay, so the values have been pasted from the original copy, not the formulas. Verified. Good. Step 17. Notice that rows 9 and 10 are both titled Landscaping. Let's delete the range of cells from A9 to D9. All right, so here we are in A9 and A10. They both are duplicate. They both say Landscaping. So we are going to delete the range of cells A9 through D9. So I'm going to select just those cells. I don't want to delete the entire row. I want to make sure the worksheet doesn't end up with a blank row where this data used to be. So that means I have to answer some questions here. I want to get these cells out of here, but I don't want to leave a blank row behind. I want to move everything underneath it up so that it fills that gap. So when I go to delete here, I can either right click and choose the delete option here, or I can come up here to delete. I'm going to choose this just because we haven't done this one yet. And I get the opportunity here to delete the entire row or to delete the entire column. Now the instructions said we're only going to delete a range of cells. We are not going to delete the entire row. So I'm just going to delete those cells. And so then the question left to me is, with this gap that I leave behind, am I going to shift everything underneath it up to fill in the gap, or am I going to take empty cells from the right and shove them over here to the left to fill the gap? The instructions say we don't want a blank row sitting here, so I'm going to say shift cells up so that everything underneath it fills in the hole left behind. I'll say OK. And now we have just one typo landscaping rather than two. Notice the subpoint here. If it's driving you crazy, you can correct the landscaping typo. So if we want, we can double click here and get rid of that extra P and then put the D in landscaping. I do feel better looking at that. Okay, so now we will scroll down to cell C17. C17, this empty green cell. Notice that the cell is populated with the $dash. This is the same error, and it's repeated on every green subheader line. The reason for this is that it is formatted like accounting, but there's nothing in here, no money, so it doesn't know what to do. So what we want to do is select all the cells that look like this, and then use the Clear All tool to delete all contents and formatting. So I'm going to select cell C17, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to hold down my Control key, and I'm going to select C30 and C33, whoops, and C36, C39, C43, C49, C62, C65, C68, anything that's green with that weird little error in it. And I'm just going to select those. And again, I am using my Control key. Now, a thing you need to know about your Control key. I'll demonstrate this real quick. If I'm going to select a range of cells, I don't have to hold anything down. If I want to select a range of cells, I can click the first cell, hold down my Shift key, and click the last cell, and it will get the first cell, the last cell, and everything in between. If I don't want to select contiguous cells, meaning they don't touch each other, I want just this one and then that one and then that one over there, it's the Control key that I want. I click the first one, I hold my Control key, and then I keep my Control key down and I click anywhere I want, and I can grab all of these cells. They are all selected. Now here's the thing. I wanted to select cell C17, and then I wanted to select cell C30 and C33. So I'm holding down my Control key. But if I use my mouse scroll wheel and I try to scroll down the screen while I'm holding my Control key, turns out that's a shortcut for magnifying, so shrinking or increasing your screen. So when I scroll down, it reduces my magnification by 10%. And if I scroll back up, it's increasing my magnification by, it looks like 15% every time. So that's just a little something to be aware of. Here's the thing though, you can release your Control key between clicks. So I'm going to hold down my Control key and click this one and then this one. I'm going to release my Control key, scroll down a little bit farther, hold my Control key again, click, release. As long as I hold that Control key down before adding anything else to my selection, I'm going to build my selection. If I click anywhere else without holding my Control key down, it's going to start a brand new selection for me. So what I want is for all of these weird green empty cells with the $signs in them to be selected, and then I'm going to use my Clear All Contents and Formatting button to clear them all out. So the Clear All tool to delete all contents and formatting, that lives over here on the Home tab, in the Editing group, under the Clear button. I want to clear all, which is format, contents, everything. Just clear all. So now those cells, all of the ones that I clicked, are empty. Well done, us. So then the next thing we want to do, the last thing we want to do here, is select cell B17. So let's scroll back up and find cell B17. There it is. And activate your Format Painter for multiple uses. And then use the Format Painter to replace the green fill in the cells you just cleared. So we got the contents and the formatting out of there, but we want to make them green again like this one. So the Format Painter, as you know, is just I click once on the cell that's a good example. I click once on my Format Painter. I click once on the cell that I want to have the same characteristics as the example cell. Easy peasy, I'm done. However, the Format Painter is designed to be used once and then it turns itself off. If you want to activate it for multiple uses, you select your good example cell, you double click your Format Painter, and now it stays on and you can use it as many times as you want. Notice that little green paintbrush sticks with me as I'm clicking in all the cells that I want to turn green again. And when I am done making cells green, is that the last one? Yep, I come back up here and I turn it off with a single click. So now I have repaired the damage that I did with my clear all formatting button. I'm going to save my work while I'm thinking about it. And the bonus here is if you want some extra practice, you can repeat steps 18 through 20 on the worksheet's week 1 budget and week 2 budget because you'll have the same problem there. But no time for that. Let's move ahead to define and reference named ranges. So step number 1 is we are going to create a named range. We're going to activate our worksheet Budget Master. So we're going to go back to the purple tab here, back on the Budget Master sheet, and we're going to select the range A5 through E17. So just this chunk, A5 through E17. Using the name box, name this range Site Work. So up here in the name box, I can call this Site Work. Notice no spaces. The name box does not like spaces, and I have to hit Enter to make that stick. Just typing it in there is not good enough. You got to hit Enter, and now this is a named range called Site Work. Now we navigate to the Formulas tab, to the Defined Names group, and we're going to verify that our new named range exists and that it in fact covers A5 through E17. So I'm going to go through the Name Manager here, and there is my named range Site Work. I'm going to click on it and hit Edit so that I can look at it. It's called Site Work, and it is on the Budget Master sheet from A5 through E17. Awesome. I'm going to hit Cancel, and I'm going to hit, well, I don't have to hit close yet. Let me look over here. So we verified that our new named range existed and that it covered the correct range of cells while you're here. So while I'm still here in the name manager. So if you closed it, open it up again, create another named range that covers the cell range A18 through E30, which is the demolition section of the master budget. Let's go ahead and name it demolition. That makes sense. So I'm going to click New, and I'm going to call it demolition. And under refers to, I'm going to close this up. And I'm going to come back here and I'm going to go A18 through E30, right? Yes, E30. And I'll come back up here. I'll open it up. That's demolition, A18 through E30, and I'll say OK. Now I have another named range. So that was D. Now I can close. Next thing is I'm going to name a table. While you're still on the Budget Master worksheet, select a cell anywhere in the range A50 through E62. So A50 through E62. Select any cell. Okay, I'll just click in one of them. Notice when I click here, Table Tools Design pops up. That means this is formatted as a table. I can click Table Tools, Design, and I'm going to come over here to where it says Table Name, and I'm going to rename this table Framing. And I'll hit Enter to make it stick. Now this isn't in the instructions, but if you wanted to go over to your Formulas tab and look in your Defined Names group and you look at your name manager, you will see that the framing table is now named Framing. Before it was there, it was just called Table 1 or Table 2 or something, but now we have changed the name to Framing, and that change flows through over here. You could have changed the name over here and seen it flow through to the table tools also. Just a nice little double check for you. So I'm going to save my work. And now we are on to summarizing data visually. So now I'm going to activate the worksheet Budget Master, okay? And I'm going to select the cells D6, all the way up here from D6 through D91, all the way down. Yep, keep going. D6 through D91. There we go. And I want to apply the following conditional formatting rules. Make any cell that is greater than $2,000 use green fill with dark green text. So greater than $2,000. And I want to make any cell that is less than $2,000 use light red fill with dark red text. So I'm going to go to my Home tab and I'm going to go to my Conditional Formatting button here in the Styles group. I'm going to apply a Highlight Cells rule and I'm going to use a greater than. So I'm going to say any cells greater than $2,000 is going to show with green fill and dark green text. And I'll say OK. I'll go back to my Conditional Formatting tab and I'll go back to Highlight Cells, and now I'm going to use a less than rule. And I'm going to say anything that is less than $2,000 is going to show with the red fill and the dark red text. And I'll say OK. So now, just at a glance, anything over 2,000 or under 2,000 is highlighted. So now I'm going to activate the worksheet 10-year summary. And I'm going to select cell L4. And I'm going to insert a line style sparkline. So L4, insert a sparkline, a line style sparkline. And the data range doesn't tell me what the data range is supposed to be, but I'm going to assume that my 10-year performance wants us to track all of this. So I'm going to go ahead and drag across there and say OK. And now I have a 10-year sparkline inserted in column and cell L4. I want to add markers. So when I click on my sparkline Tools Design tab pops up. In the Show group, I want to add markers. So I check the box, and that gives me a little dot for each one of these data points. I want to apply the sparkline style dark green sparkline colorful style 4. So again, on the Sparkline Tools Design, here's my style group. I'm going to mouse over it, and I'm looking for the one called dark green sparkline colorful style 4. There's dark green accent 6, dark green. So I'm just going to mouse over these till I find the dark green one. Is it dark green? Yes, dark green sparkline colorful style 4. Dark green sparkline style colorful number 4. So the second one from the right on the bottom row. All right. Then I'm going to select cell L5 and insert a column style sparkline. So once again, select the cell, go to the Insert tab, go to the Sparklines, go to the Columns, insert my data range, and select OK. So there's my column style sparkline visually indicating how these numbers are going up and down over the years. And this time I want to select the high point to be marked. So once again, if I select my column sparkline, I go to the Design tab and I choose High Point, then the tallest column turns red. I want to display the high point in orange from the Standard Colors menu. So if I go here to Marker Color, and I want the high point marked. Right now it is marked in red, but I want it to be orange from the standard colors menu. So I'm going to use the standard colors and click orange. Now it is orange. Now that you have the sparkline visually representing how many houses were built each year, there's no need to keep the conditional formatting on row 5. By that, we mean these arrows, this icon set, this arrow set. Clear the conditional formatting from that row. So I selected that row. I'll go to conditional formatting, and I'll go to clear rules from the selected cells. And now they're gone. And that's it. That was completing Unit 2 hands-on exercise. So, as always, we encourage you to repeat this exercise in part or entirely until you feel completely comfortable with the skills here. And sometimes you know one way to do a thing, but the exercise showed you a second or a third or a fourth way to do it. We encourage you to get really comfortable with all of the different methods in case the test asks for a specific one. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We are always happy to set up an appointment to chat. So congratulations on finishing, and we will see you in Unit 3.